Off the wind on this heading lie, the Marquesas. They got 80 feet of a water line, nicely making a way in a noisy bar. And hands up, people. In Avalon, I tried to call you, but on a midnight watch, I realized how to wish you went away. It's a little Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young for us today. It's hot in here. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Live with Jerri and Denise. Two ragtag sisters just trying to make their way in this world. One dog at a time, okay? Tonight's guest, incomparable for many reasons. His love of huskies, there's probably no comparing there, okay? His Netflix presence, also no comparing, okay? We don't know where Denise is. She sometimes wanders in, at her leisure, normally with a story about how something with dogs was more important than us. She's got that cool new pup, Ice. Let me put my AirPods in so that we don't have any interference, and we're going to see if you guys can still hear. I heard that cough, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
I can hear you. You got me? Perfect.
Yep,
Well, hello, everybody.
Hi, Denise.
Hello, folks. How are you both?
Recovery.
No real complaints.
I just had a cold. That's why we weren't here last week. But I'm fine now.
That is very good to hear. And Matt, all is well in your segment of the world?
Yeah, my son is at the urgent care. He was running from a loose dog in our neighborhood yesterday and fell, and pretty sure he broke his arm. So that's
Something that would happen to dog people.
Yeah. Yeah, my poor boy. And
Aw,
then he decided after he kind of got his after he got his wounds treated, he decided he and his buddy, they put on their camo vests and they got out their Nerf guns and they went out to let all passersby know that there was a loose dog that was aggressive. And I caught wind of it and I said, hey, tell me what you're telling people. And he said, well, the dog is really big and it's really aggressive. And I said, okay, I saw the dog. The dog's about 25 pounds. I said, can you tell me, bless him, but scared is scared. And I said, can you tell me about the coloring? And he said, yes, it was all white and black. And I said, actually, it was gray and black. Okay. And what kind of dog was it? He said, I don't know. It was just aggressive. And I said, well, let's talk about aggression because this is what Daddy does. So tell me exactly what happened. Did he put his mouth on you? No. Did his teeth touch you? No. So what happened? Well, he was loose and I was walking towards him and then he saw me and he started running at me. And I said, and then what happened? He said, then I fell. And I said, when you fell, did he come at you? And he said, no, he just turned and went away. I said, so we got to be really careful about the messaging of aggressive because this dog, somebody might say on next door, there's a big aggressive dog running around and then animal care picks that dog up. And that's the end of that dog's experience. So I don't know how much my son he's really sharp. I don't know how much he appreciated an on-the-fly lesson about contextualizing behavior, while he's out there with his camo vest on. But we got to do what we can the right way when we can. So I think they're coming home, but they know I'm on this call.
But you're right that's so you went and you spoiled his fun. You totally ruined his good time. He was out there, lion tamer type style. Yep. But that's kind of right, because what you said actually could totally happen and probably has happened a million times over. Misunderstandings, like in California, if a dog jumps on a person and scrapes them with their nails, that's the same as a dog bite. They don't differentiate scraping with nails. It's harm to another person,
Yeah.
which in my mind is like, wait a second, those are night and day. But the laws are very odd about these things, and that would be a tragedy to have this dog end up euthanized when it was just being silly. And I'm sorry for your son.
Yeah.
Although once he gets through the worst of it, it's fun because then he gets all the attention. But he
He's
may not
got
be there yet.
Yeah, he's got a story. And the other thing too there was a learning opportunity was that the dog, I just took it at face look, just a quick visual. The dog seems to be some kind of cattle dog Chihuahua mix. And I was able to say to him, like those Chihuahuas are trying to take over the world. So any breed they can cohabitate with, they will. I think they especially need the pitties because they need the brawn, but the Chihuahua's got the brains. So that's a whole other world takeover conversation. But even to say to him, a dog like that's probably a cattle dog or a Chihuahua is probably going to have feelings about you being nearby, and it's probably going to be easily triggered. And yeah, anyway, all that said, we will say we'll just see what we can do and move on. And then you're right, Denise. He's going to have a cast, and he'll have plenty of good stories about how he fought off this really aggressive 90-pound dog, that was probably a wolf.
Look, it's relative. How much does your son weigh?
Oh, it's probably about 50 pounds, so it's half his weight.
There you go. Because I
Yeah.
can think of childhood memories I had where I went to a place and the house was huge. You know what I mean? Or the park, whatever it was in my mind was enormous. And then you go back to the adult and you're like, that's just not how I remember it. Or Disneyland,
my dad
what a
was
classic
Paul Bunyan
example.
for sure. I thought that's what really struck me as I got older. My dad just kept getting not Paul Bunyan like anymore. I'm like, wow, when I was younger, you were so much bigger. I mean, he still is, but so I want to talk about, because this is all about me. So what I want to talk about the Dog People Evolution conference that's coming up. People have so many questions about that. What is it? What are we trying to do? I'm going to let you lay it out the way you want to lay it out, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm super stoked that the two of you are there. Oh, lest I lose an opportunity to public shame, Denise, you're the last person whose bio and photo we don't have.
I want you to know,
Okay, in
Denise,
fairness,
that
I
the
sent an
day
email
he
6 weeks ago saying, do you have my photo and bio? And did not get a response. So I took that as,
man,
well, sure, send it. However, because let me tell you, I am the most on top of it presenter any conference has ever dealt with. They think I am the best thing to fall off the boat because I get my talks in. So I'm going to let that email issue slide, and I'll take care of it tonight.
Well, also fairness, because there are three of us, one of us based in Sweden, one in Finland, and myself here in Austin, and we're using JotForm for our speakers, that gets flagged in a lot of people's spam mails. And if I heard you right, Denise, there actually is a speaker boat, and you were the one who was fresh off the speaker boat with the highest record. So noted.
I fell off.
Yep.
But I will take care of that for sure.
Okay, thank you. So Dog People Evolution, it is in short, empathy is the revolution. Times being what they are, our industry being what it is, the reality is that we have people that are unable to learn freely, and they're missing out opportunities to help more dogs because they don't feel like they can get the help that they need in their own evolution as a dog person. My direct experience, I've been very public about my journey, and just to touch on it briefly for people that may not know who I am or may not know a little bit about my journey. I'm what's known as a crossover trainer. I started about, after being afraid of dogs and then getting clean and sober early on. I started with dogs about 16, 17 years ago. Ended up really through, thank you, Amanda, for letting me know that. You tried several times to pay for the conference. Okay, please, Amanda, if you haven't already sent an email, please do that to the Dog People Evolution website. I will flag it because there were some early payment issues, which were not our fault. Turns out it was a back end thing. So thanks for the heads up on that, because there's still room and time. So in my journey, I ended up, for whatever reason, through little effort of my own, having a television show, did things on the television show I wish I hadn't done, things I wish I had done, but either way, it was out there. And when I got a chance to do the second season, which is rare, I wanted an opportunity to become the first certified trainer on television. So I was able to do that. I wanted an opportunity to demonstrate growth and progress and transformation. My brand anymore is growing in public. I find that's not only necessary for me in my own alignment, but it's also necessary for supporting dog people around the world because, well, speaking to the choir here, social media is not predicated on people actually telling the truth. That's, that's really not ultimately what's going to drive sales. So I found along the way as I was going into that second season and I reached out to people for help that there were a select number of people that happened to be really experienced and at a high level of expertise that were willing to help me. And I called those people and texted them every day as we were filming the second season. And I never forgot, and hopefully never will forget, how impactful that was for me at a time where, yes, I was highly visible, but visible or not, just as a trainer who knew he was stuck, who needed help because because he cared for dogs and he wanted to maximize his opportunity to impact the well-being of dogs and their people, to get help from people made a world of difference. It literally changed the trajectory of my life and my profession. Cut to Kim Brophy asks me to be the keynote speaker at her inaugural Legs conference in 2022. I got to do that, and there I got to, for the first time publicly, really tell the arc of that story and how impactful it was to have somebody support me in that. And then at that conference, there was somebody who came to visit from Finland, and she was there live in Indiana at Wolf Park, and she said, I have a friend in Sweden who's watching, and the two of us are wondering if you'd come speak in Sweden. And I said, well, I happen to know that in Sweden, there's a movement going around to ban my show. And I don't blame them for that. I don't argue. I don't disagree with people's criticisms of my work at that time. But I don't think it's going to be much of a good sell if it's me in Sweden in a place where they don't really want me. But what if we got some other people on board and I might just serve as an access point for people who want to grow and who've made mistakes and they're looking to get some new information. And then I reached out to Mike Chikasho. He said he'd do it. I reached out to Kim. She said she would do it. Early on, Denise, I reached out to you. You showed interest. I reached out to Jerri. And now we find ourselves with 22 virtual speakers, 11 speakers in person at an event, at a live event held in Sweden. So 33 speakers in total from a wide range of experience, education, lived experience, understanding, culture, community. I'm so stoked to be a part of this. And that's why I'm driving this, because I know, and driven to do this because I know that if we want to help more dogs, we have to learn how to help more people. The math is that simple. It's not sufficient for me to say I'm a dog person, but I will only work with people I like. I have to have more objective evolved skills, especially living here in Texas. I have a lot of disagreements with how things are done, but that doesn't stop me from helping somebody who needs their dog helped because their dog didn't vote. You know what I mean? So that's really what I'm on about. And so here the two of you are, because your stories collectively and individually are amazing. And the two of you are people that, have been willing to help me and support me as I'm trying to make just basic consideration and empathy the new baseline in people's lives.
What really struck me when you were talking was the difference of approach to helping people that may feel like they're stuck as trainers or are drifting off into the realm of compulsion. There's a stark difference between getting on the internet and shaming people and pointing out trainers and starting massive movements and getting everyone arguing and yelling about things than what you just described, which is allow places for people to have a mentor and a connection which also changed my life. I don't even know. I'm not sure what, I mean, I certainly would have gone on had Denise not come into my life, but I I can see how different the trajectory was for me and how it fostered this place for me to learn and grow very rapidly because I had someone I could ask questions to and talk to things about that it really was just between us and there weren't judgments going on. They were just thought experiments and we could talk things out. And it wasn't like she would say something and I'd be like, well, I'm not talking to you anymore. Or I'm not talking to it. That spirit is so damaging in our industry. Uh-oh, we just lost her.
Yeah.
That spirit is so damaging. And then she's like, well, I was thinking about just this past, really, it's been a couple years now since the dog daddy thing happened. And how does our industry, I don't know, Denise, let's get you back in. I see you there. And how does our industry begin to recover? There you are again. I said, Denise, that it just reminded me of what has happened in the last couple of years with some well-known trainers that have been in the spotlight. And it kind of all started where everybody knew there was something in the waters with the dog daddy thing.
Yeah.
So we've got this in our face. And at the time, I think we let the person that was willing to say something about it say something because we were all working. We were working, we're kind of got our own things going on. And unfortunately, the person that rose to say something was not necessarily somebody that represented the majority of our ideals. Certainly not the majority of what we were doing in terms of training dogs. So that's just what I was thinking about when you were talking, how different this is and how this could be a real path forward for a lot of us.
So many things I've been thinking as you were talking also. First of all, I don't think people have any idea how much behind the scenes conversation actually takes place. So Matt and I had conversations some time ago. I did not know you. As far as I know, you did not know me. And I was going through it in the dog world. And unfortunately, from people who basically train like me, which is where that always kind of blows me away. The thing is, we have an expectation of 100% alignment or someone's not one of us, right? And so I was at a point with some people where I'm not at 100%, I'm at whatever, 90%, but it's not enough. And so they came down pretty hard on me. And Matt actually reached out and we had a great conversation. And much of what matters to me is that I think those conversations are incredibly important. That quiet, private conversations that they're not even really about agreeing. They're about creating bridges where there's the basis of trust. So, Jerri, I don't even know, like when you and I first started talking, I don't even think I had any thoughts about it. It wasn't about, I'm going to convert this person. It just was you were just a person and you entertained me and I enjoyed our conversations. So it was a bridge to a friend. And then it'll be what it'll be. But the thing is, then now there's a basis of trust because then you ask me the occasional question and I answer as honestly as I can. And I remember specifically answering some of your questions saying, I have that same problem. I have that same concern. I don't have an answer. It's not that I didn't know the party line answer. I do know the party line answers, but I have questions about the party line answers. And so I would just lay it out for you and walk away. It wasn't meant to be a change point. And when I talked with Matt and I over the years on a few occasions have talked through things, it was never about getting you to see things my way. It was simply communicating with colleagues. And some of the colleagues that I communicate with do not train like me. And that's okay. It's about basis of trust and communication and getting along. And I don't think people know how much of that actually goes on. There's an incredible amount of it. And I think that is it's safety and it's importance. It's kind of like you said, social media, it's not a lie per se, but I call social media a commercial. A lot of what we present publicly is a commercial. And that's even true sometimes with how we're interacting with other people. It's what happens behind the scenes. And it's so vital that you be able to send somebody a note and say, hey, I've got some questions about something you said, did, whatever. Can we talk about this? Just because I want to express myself, I want to hear your view. It's safe, but it has to happen privately, because how we present publicly is often complicated by a lot of factors. I mean, oh my God, I went through it because I was publicly interacting with a balance trainer. And, the irony, if I look back, that person changed their ways for many, many months. As the time I was interacting with that person, stopped talking badly about positive reinforcement, started trying new techniques, really literally changed the way they presented themselves publicly. And then all the shit hit the fan every which way. And that person, we don't interact anymore. And that person's back to, I assume, being how they are. And all I hear to this day from people who are positive reinforcement trainers is, well, Denise, we can't trust you because, look, in the past, you were friends with this person. And I'm thinking, you completely missed all the good that came from that period of time.
Yeah.
Because you didn't want to see the good. You were waiting and looking for a problem. And the expression, we eat our own young. There's so much truth to it. And it's so unbelievably harmful. We do. We just.
I've made reels about it. We eat our young.
One thing, we eat our young. I would say if there was one thing, it's we've got to move past the idea that you have to have 100% alignment with someone, or you cannot be publicly or privately friend with them. Because all three of us know that we have many relationships outside of social media where we do not have 100% alignment. In some cases, the only reason I'm interacting is because I like the person. I do not like how they train. I do not like how they publicly present, but something about that person engages me. And if people knew I talked to people like that, how can you talk to that, whatever, animal abusing, It's like, because I see more to that person and I don't need to be in 100% alignment. And maybe hanging out with me takes some of the edges off that person. I don't know. So much
Matt,
good.
imagine if that was the rule in recovery. Nobody would make it. I would be dead. Yeah. Mm. Oh no, I can hear you just fine. Denise and
I
I are
can hear
just
it.
listening along. That's crazy. I don't know. I can hear you. Well, hopefully it records
Yeah.
okay, and
And if
I'll
not,
throw it up there. Yeah.
if it continues to be an issue, we'll have you leave and come back.
Yeah.
Then we'll talk shit about you when you're gone, but we will stop the minute you're back on.
Right. Okay, they can't hear you. Yeah, jump. Yeah. Yeah, most embarrassing thing that happened to you in 8th grade. Bye.
But that's so interesting that one person would freeze for others, but not for us, that we can see him just fine.
I know.
How interesting that is.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So you had the right suggestion because that's what everybody else said too.
But you know what? It's like your computer, right? When in doubt, reboot. So we
Yeah.
just rebooted.
Now you guys have switched sides. This is fun.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We switched sides?
Yeah.
I
Now
can't
you're
see
on
that.
the
He looks
bottom.
like
You're
you're
on the
facing
bottom
close
right.
to me.
Oh.
Oh, good. Uh,
Okay, everybody,
yeah.
mic check.
So from, can you all hear me?
I think so. Nobody's complaining thus far. That's
Unless
good.
they're all frozen. Unless,
Yeah, that'd be unfortunate, wouldn't it?
yeah, wouldn't that be like, that would be, that
Okay,
would be
we're
like
good, they said.
a lot of my drunk conversations. Dude, are you awake? Dude, I just told you the meaning of life. Bro. Suck.
Been there.
So been on both sides. So the parallel is to recovery is we teach by proximity. That's what we do. If we don't do that, people die. I mean,
I
that
love
is what it
that.
is.
Is that an expression that is known and used in the? I love that, teaching by
I've heard
proximity.
that. I don't know if it's actually in the blue book, but I have certainly heard that.
No. But that's actually the culture. That the culture is
It's
that.
not competence. It's
No.
not competency like in dog training. It's do one, teach one, or all die.
Yep.
Literally.
Yep.
Yeah. That is
Yeah.
a
And
great phrase, by proximity.
the bar is that the goal is one day at a time, and I couldn't do one day at a time. I mean, I couldn't be in my head for 3 seconds, but I had learned don't do it alone. So what I did is I called somebody when I could barely get out of bed. Mind you, like I had graduated NYU magna cum laude. By the time I was in jail, I couldn't even put a sentence together. That's how wet my brain was. And I would call people in early recovery and I'd say, I can't move. And they would say, where are you? I'm sitting on my bed. Okay, what do you see in front of you? I mean, everything was coming back to the moment. I see a dresser. Okay, are you dressed? I have my pajamas on. Okay, what do you need to do? I don't know. Have you eaten? Like that was the walkthrough. I was I and I was the starving dog who didn't know how to eat. And so the principles of recovery saved my life. And one of the reasons that it's changed my professional experience is because if I don't live by my principles of recovery, I'm not long for this earth. My kids have never seen me drink, my wife has never seen me use, but it'll change quick. So I have to practice what I do in all of these aspects of my life, which includes being transparent, because I can't afford to be slippery around things. And I started to see obvious parallels, like we train by proximity. Oh, that's how we stay sober. I started to see parallels, like my primary purpose is to be of service to any dog and dog person that I meet. So I need the skill set. I don't need them to change. I don't need to be a part of an industry that requires other people change so that I don't have to. That's not the human experience. You know what I mean? And the thing I say this with sensitivity because I was horrified by a lot of the behavior that I saw from Dog Daddy. I also got an early tip that he was likely suffering from an addiction. And I made a personal decision, and it's okay. People can disagree with me. They can, that anybody can feel however they felt. But I thought, if this guy needs somebody to talk to, and I am public about my recovery, I would rather that I'm available for him to reach out to me when and if he chooses. I'll let other people say what needs to be said, and I don't disagree with it, etc. But that was an intentional. I sat with that for a while, and then I realized I have a different purpose in serving this individual when and if he's ready for help.
You said something to me during that time period that was so profound. I'll never forget what you said. It might not have been these exact words, but you said, if anybody ever needed help, it was that dude swinging around dogs on the end of a leash. And I just, uh, it, right then in that moment, I was the same person as him.
Yeah.
I was him and he was me, because it was just like you put it in a perspective, in a way that I could understand it through the lens of recovery. I have done things way worse than swing a dog around on the end of a leash, you guys.
Sadly, same. Yeah.
So I have a
And
question.
yeah.
I am in the same boat as you guys for 100 different reasons. I'm an educator. What do we do about the fact that there are a whole lot of people in this country who really don't understand that it's not just dog trainer, that there is some really terrible dog training, and how do we address the activism side, which is important, by the way. I think it's important that people recognize that there are choices to be made in dog training, and that we're not all one. It's not like when you go to your dentist. I don't. People say, is your dentist good? How would I even know how to answer that question? I mean, he's my dentist. I hope he's good. Dog trainer, that covers from 0 to 100, right? If you had a scale, You could have 0 being the worst. How do we handle the balancing act between the need to educate the public to what all is possible out there, and at the same time supporting the acceptance that's required in order to allow people to make different choices? I have simply opted out of activism completely. I don't do it. But I don't necessarily have a problem with people who do. I do have a problem with how some people do it. But I struggle with this, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about that.
Well, I certainly opted in to activism. And I opt and I think a lot of it is just I just have a big mouth and I don't care about having to say I was wrong or being wrong or making a mistake in front of people because of recovery. It taught me that um, if you're living your life honestly, then the mistakes are just part of who you are. There's nothing to be ashamed of, but there's accountability there. You can't just stay wallowing in your own kind of crappy stage of development. There, you need to grow through that. And as I have grown through that, I've definitely learned discernment about what I should say and not say. And to take it even further, and this is a short story everyone can remember. I had a friend in recovery that was Navajo, and his name's Jeremiah. He's still alive, present tense. But he was a man of very, very few words. And every time he spoke, it was so impactful. And he's about my age. He was in the Air Force, and he would always come into the meetings in his, fatigues. And every time he spoke, it was short, but it was very, very good. And I asked him one day about that. And he told me that his grandfather had taught him some simple rules about when you should speak and not speak. And he said, I ask myself 3 questions before I say something. Does it need to be said? Does it need to be said right now? Does it need to be said right now by me? And by the time he got to the second question, generally, he was quiet. So I try that. And I know that the discernment comes in with understanding how to properly use my platform. And that's tough. That just takes time. I've made massive mistakes in certain areas where I went way too hard on something and I alienated some of my friends, and then I have places where I think I maybe should have pushed a little harder because I have the platform and because it matters and I can really get something out. But the more time I spend, the more I realize that activism for me is a very quiet work like recovery. And the best way that I can promote that within my own life and have success is to do community projects and put my money where my mouth is. Because otherwise, people think I'm a blowhard. And I don't want that. I don't want people to think that, not because it's an ego thing, but because I want to be productive with my platform. I want us to do things and create relief and hope. And the more that I got involved in activism, especially if it was political, if it didn't have anything to do with dogs, I do not get involved. I cannot please everyone, and I am a moderate. And moderates are not liked. You have to be here or here, and I am very, very moderate. So that's my take on it. I'm learning how to stand up for the things I believe in by actually making action steps and starting projects with the people that have like similar thinking.
I do want to hear what you have to say, Matt, on this. I did want to say one quick thing because as you were speaking, you reminded me. I don't name names, but I do talk about scenarios. So I will talk about, I saw such a thing. This was my reaction to it. This was what I saw with the dog. This is what I saw with the handlers, but I don't name names. That's as close as I get to dog activism. Because sometimes I do see things or hear about things that are very upsetting, and it allows me to process without calling out a specific individual. So I don't know. That's how I'm handling it. But Matt, how are you? What are your thoughts?
Well, one of the early lessons that stuck with me in my commitment to being an adult, which is AKA recovery, and I want to talk about sandwiches in jail in a little bit, was that it was made clear to me that my job is to be a safe place for people to turn to when and if they choose. So right away, like that I had to hand over my martyr card. I had to hand over my Jesus conscience card, like a bunch of things. I'm also the son of a preacher man, so that might explain a lot of things. But that really stuck with me, when and if they choose. And then what that meant clearly underneath is that I have to be I have to develop myself as a human in ways that will make me supportive for people when they need help. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying to anybody, go help people that make you feel unsafe. I'm not saying that. Like, I'm about to launch just total God shot. I just got greenlit to launch a pilot program for the Texas Juvenile Detention System, where I can bring a dog and I can introduce the dog um, to these young men who are incarcerated. The state of Texas doesn't want anything gentle on them, so we had to kind of couch it as job building so that they can be productive. But I just want to bring my dog, my sweet senior dog, and help these young men learn about consent and body language and context for behavior, and maybe understand that my dog's behavior is 100% appropriate based on her experience in the moment, and maybe yours is too, and maybe there's some grace there. So the opportunity to do that as a result of me relying on others to help me grow. My activism looks different in different ways. A lot of my activism is behind the scenes. Dog People Evolution is an act of activism. One of my goals, I'm thinking about the next 20 years in terms of legacy work, and I don't intend it to be from an egoic standpoint. I'm just thinking, what am I going to leave that's worthwhile behind? What's going to be generative, that's going to be helpful to somebody else? And so when I think about it that way, I want to fade myself. I want to fade this trainer. That's what I want to do. I want to lift up the conversation. I want to address the advantages I have as a white educated man. I want to address the disadvantages that other people have. I want to do what I can, and then I want to bit by bit remove myself, or be removed, so that people who need help, who have a presence, who have something to say, so that they're there, and I'm not taking the microphone when it's not my time. That's all of what my activism looks like. And if DPE 2025 is the first and last, then we're going to go out blazing. But I suspect we're going to do it with the kind of integrity that actually creates a momentum that may make a unique difference, from a point of activism.
I think it may make a unique difference because it's likely to attract trainers as opposed to pet people. And it's likely to attract trainers who, frankly, think much like we do in terms of how we approach dogs. Where I see the disconnect in our own community is that many approach dogs radically different than people. And I think that may come from people's individual stories. They've got their own stuff to work out. And I think it may also come from frustration about, you're not doing it the way you should know better. And I think there's a degree of permission that our community gives to mistreat people who don't think like we do. I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons. And what I like about it is, if people can, the stories you've already told just now, I mean, about some of this, it's just like, wow, this is amazing. The idea that, what did you call it about proximity? Say that again.
Yeah, that we're teaching in recovery. We teach by
Yeah,
proximity.
teaching by
You got
proximity.
you got to the meeting.
I
Yeah.
have to hold that because that's so true. Like, if I take the places I hang out don't tend to be positive reinforcement based because of my choice of sports. And so there I am with my dog without a collar on, and believe me, I'm the only one in the room who looks like that. And it's okay. They allow me to be there. They're comfortable with me. They ask me questions. Now, what's interesting is that did not happen in the past. This is the first time in my sport am I in a place where they want to know, why are you doing that thing you're doing right now? I don't know if they're going to do anything with it. I don't even ask. I just say, this is what I'm doing. And then I go a little further. I say, these are the reasons I like this approach. These are the risks I see. And what that does is it engages them in it, because they're thinking through the risks. They're already thinking, well, what are you going to do when, right? So I lay them out, and then I allow for a conversation, and sometimes they have some really great ideas, because now you get a dialogue going with people who understand the sport, if not how I approach it. And I have a good time when I'm with these folks, but it is because of proximity. I'm not the nasty person who they thought I probably was before I showed up, because I'm different. And different, how different tends to bring out the aggression in people.
Yeah.
And then I show up, I'm not aggressive. I'm not angry. I've said that so many times. I'm not angry. I would like things to be different in the dog world, but I'm not angry. I just want to see some changes, especially on those far edges that I think are like, okay, dogs are getting a rough go. Yeah. But I love that idea that teaching by proximity is just, that so describes what I would like to move towards. And I so hope that this conference gets a whole bunch of people there who have similar thoughts about how change occurs, and frankly, the damage done by individuals who are exceptionally abrasive. Have you seen that thing, memes are the lowest form of communication? I remember
Yes,
reading that.
Tony Soprano said in one of the episodes of The Sopranos that remember when is the lowest form of conversation.
Okay,
And I think
that's so true.
I
Wow.
think that memes are a form of remember when, a
Well, I used
collective.
to put up the occasional meme, because you know what? People love them. They
Yeah.
skyrocket your numbers. I can get 1,000 likes, and it takes me 2 minutes to put up a meme. Such a
Hmm.
simple thing.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking about it. What am I doing here? In group signaling.
Yeah.
Who likes this meme? People who
Hmm.
already think like me. They
Yeah.
get so excited because it's evidence that we're all on the same team.
That we're all
And
the
when I
same.
really internalized that, I kind of got a little nauseous. Like, that's not who I am. I am not a lowest common denominator person. And I don't do memes anymore. They're off my radar, because that's not how I don't want to alienate the ones who don't resonate with my memes. I don't want to in group signal. I am who I am. And hopefully I have enough people around me who appreciate me that I have a group, but I don't feel like I need to keep putting it out there. Don't forget, I'm one of you. Um,
Yeah.
kind of one of those important learning things for me that helped me.
One thing I want to highlight too about all of our speakers, and I know this was kind of a mind bend because a lot of our speakers have a lot of conference speaking experience. There are no presentations here. Everything is what we would call in recovery a share. Everything's 20 to 30 minutes of somebody talking about a significant change in their evolution as a dog person. So the goal from top down and bottom up and side to side is to not just give people an opportunity to hear and experience our speakers differently, but to experience a conference differently. Our virtual, for example, the two of you know because you're in a pod, our virtual speakers have been put into pods because we realized that the opportunity to have two speakers each share individually and then have time to talk, and I have the privilege of being able to host all of the pods. That's an experience that usually is saved for the Q&A afterwards. But why don't we model conversation out of the jump? You know what I mean? The conference is fortified by a structure called ECPR, emotional CPR, which is going to be presented from an unbelievable human being, Kim Ewing, who's been
Uh-oh. I can't hear him. But there he's back. You're back.
You're back.
somebody calling. I just said, I'm on with Jerry. Leave me alone. Denise has your number. Okay, um, so we want the experience for people. Look, we're emotional beings trying to have intellectual experiences, not vice versa. And I want the experience. We collectively, myself and Jess and Petra, the three founders, we want people to have the opportunity to feel like they're seen, to feel like they're heard, to have the experience of mutuality. Oh, you got a bunch of letters next to your name, but dang, I could totally relate to what you were talking about. That's the thing that we're missing. It's not a quest for connection because we're already connected. But the reality is that we forget that we're connected. We behave as if we're not connected, and then that creates more discord. We're missing all of
Yeah.
these co-regulating opportunities. We're out there running around and If I take this class, I'll be able to self-regulate. And I read this book, I'll be able to self-regulate. But you could self-regulate by talking to somebody who's having a hard day, and you just listen to them and say, that I can breathe in what you just said, and that sounds really hard. And that's
I would
all you
come into
gotta say.
meetings freaking
Yeah.
out, basically spiraling, like what you're just talking about. And my sponsor would be like, "You're not grounded. You need to ground." And then she'd make me interlock my
Yeah.
hand with her wrist so that we made a little basket
Yep.
and we would just breathe together. I couldn't even breathe by myself.
Yeah. Same.
And wouldn't, it wasn't like, oh, someone go get Kathy because she has 25 years of sobriety. It was whichever person is standing next to me, it's their job. If they have a day
Hmm.
more of sobriety than I do, it's their job to
Hmm.
help the newcomer. The newcomer helps the newcomer, helps the new. And that is really something I would like to take into dog training and that I've tried to replicate in my own
Yeah.
business with
Yep.
interns and things like that. Because in dog training, we're taught that you shouldn't be helping if you're not at this certain particular level because you could F this person's dog up.
Yeah.
And that fear, like, is like a cloud over people trying to step out and get experience and do new things. Speaking of, um, community projects and what we're all doing and promoting. Starting on Wednesdays after this, so it's 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. A group of my friends and I have been working for months and months on a nonprofit called Dogs Anonymous, and it's like a well, it's Dogs Anonymous. And we don't have the exact principles of AA because that would be a little off, a different topic, but we've put a lot of work into it. We've had countless meetings for months. Every single person that's involved in this is right down our alley of like the way we think and the things that we're saying. And we want there to be a place for people that are getting ready to take their dog to the shelter and they don't know what to do.
Mm.
So they can come, they can sit in the meeting. We have a whole meeting structure. We have practiced it endlessly. I have made the most mistakes in leading the meetings. Shocking, but we're really proud of it, and we want people to come and share their experiences. It's not obviously just for people that need help. We have to have people sitting in the chairs that have been through the process, that they're living successfully with their dogs. So if you're interested in just being of support, just sharing your story, your experience, strength, and hope, as we say in recovery, come. It's not just for people that are in crisis.
I got to
Oh,
tell you,
and the
I don't know
link
if
is in
I've
my
told you
stories.
this. I don't even know if I've ever told you this, Jerry, but the more you and I talk, the more because you bring up clearly recovery is a huge part of your life, right? The principles, the things, your background and all. I have learned so much really interesting and cool stuff. It's like I thought that the organizations like Alcoholics Anonymous and all were very targeted on dealing with the drinking issue or whatever your issue was. What I did not understand is actually it's a roadmap to life, and it's a good one. Like if
Hmm.
a person works that program
Hmm.
and really internalizes it, I think you're going to end up with some pretty emotionally healthy people, because everything I see and hear kind of resonates for me as being a really respectful way to treat yourself and to treat others as you go through life. So if I haven't thanked you, I really appreciate that, because I've
Oh,
learned a lot to take away, even not as a person in recovery, that I think about it. Like when we're done, I'll kind of think through something that got said or whatever, and kind of think about how that applies away. And I think this DA thing is pretty awesome. I think that's
Yeah.
amazing.
well, they call those the promises, and Matt and I are both just swimming inside of them as you were saying that these things will come true for you. If you work this program, if you do this, if you put yourself out there and you connect with other human beings and you be of service and you tell the truth, these things will come true for you, for every person. And I have never seen it not work on a person that wanted to work it ever. And that's what we say in AA is we all make that comment pretty early on in recovery, like, wow, if everyone did this, it would be so much better out there. And that was the first thing my parents ever said. My parents came to my year, birthday meeting, and I got to speak. And when I was done, my mom and dad both said that we didn't understand what you were doing here. We didn't know. We thought you were just not learning how to not drink. We didn't understand they were literally telling you how to be a person, a good person. It really stuck with me that like here I was for a year going to 3 meetings a day because I was so messed up. I couldn't get through, even to lunch, and to see that I was a part of something that finally I felt good about myself and my life for the first time. And I think that uh, the 12 steps, whenever you get into an anonymous group, that's the point, is to feel good about what you're doing and who you are, because so many people have felt so poorly. And I think that can work with dogs too.
I think it's a brilliant idea. And I think the model is, like you said, the world would be a much better place if people internalized the principles. And what I love is it's not about being nice, it's about being honest. And honesty,
Kind, yeah.
like somebody was struggling to say something which was going to be hard. And I said, I always find after I go through 1,000 repetitions of trying to understand how to address something, I always find that honesty is the answer. That doesn't mean you just blurt out the first word that came to your mind, but I always find that honesty is the right answer. You just have to frame it correctly, but say the truth. And it's like, what people don't realize is that you can always say the truth. You just have to think about how you're presenting it, and it works. Like, what a simple thing. If your whole life is about being honest with yourself
Mm.
and with other people, wow. I mean,
You can
that will
start
so.
accepting consequences a lot better, because your consequences aren't the consequences of a liar. And those are heavy. That's a high price to pay when you're trying to juggle all those things. And so if you're just honest about stuff, hopefully with tact, like you said, you start to realize that there are actually a whole column of consequences that you now no longer have to even deal with, because that column was lying or people pleasing or covering up, or whatever distortion of the truth it was. um but there's cons to it. I shouldn't say cons, there's growing pains to it, because dependent upon your personality, you'll go out with a flamethrower like I do and just start truthing, and then you have to deal with those consequences. But that's okay. I would rather have that. So we're hoping with these meetings that we are there to do what we're in recovery to do, which is find the similarities. What can you pull from that person that you can carry with you? Do not look for the differences. You don't need to be pointing out that that person's 6'3" and you're 5'5". It does not matter. We're all sitting in this room together. We all got here the same way. And it's because we've either made a mistake with our dog, we don't know what we're doing with our dog, we need help, or maybe we've been through that and we want to turn around and reach our hand out to the next person.
Okay, so I got my second amazing nugget, that you look for the similarities.
Mhm.
What an idea. When you look around at the world, looking for the similarities gives you a place to build. Don't look for the differences. There are so many differences. Don't bother.
Yeah.
Find the similarities. That's another. See, these are very important for my personal growth.
That's why they teach us all those little taglines, because your brain is just so cloudy when you try to get sober, and you have to have these little nuggets told onto. I told one to my client yesterday. She had some incident with her dog, and I said, "Oh, you didn't go out armed with facts about yourself." The big book of Alcoholics Anonymous says that we go into the world armed with facts about ourselves, things that we know to be true about who we are and the way that we behave. And so we're not deluding ourselves that I am something that I'm not, or that I'm not something that I am. So if you know that your dog is sound sensitive, Go out into the world armed with that fact and stop making up a different story that's not a fact. It's easy. Those little lines are easy to remember.
Yeah, that's a great example. When you go to a potluck, you take what you like. You're not criticizing the dishes you don't like. That's so fantastic. Exactly
Wow.
right.
Oh
I am.
my
Isn't
gosh.
that a good one?
Mm-hmm.
It is. I'm going to start saying that to people. Stop criticizing the macaroni. You brought a pie.
Eat pie if you like pie. Don't worry about me eating the macaroni. Another one I saw
That was
earlier today that
great.
I really appreciate is I was talking on Facebook a little bit about risk and risk analysis and how we go through the world, because what I've observed is that people spend an awful lot of time talking about risk. And I said, but you have to understand that if somebody goes forward, there must be something they're getting out of it. It's a balancing act. It's not just, and one person said, yeah, when somebody uses the expression, man, if I was in their shoes, I never would do that. Her response was, but that's the point. If you were in their shoes, you would have done that because you would have had all the information that they had that led them to that decision.
Hmm.
You would have lived their lives. And it's like, I kind of stopped and went, whoa, that's so obviously, right?
Yeah.
Like, if a person made it, might be from my point of view, it might be the worst decision in the world, but what's that got to do with their point of view? I'm not in them. And I thought that was
Yeah,
just
that
another word, like,
it
wow.
reminds me of when I like to tell this story, Denise. Sorry. It reminds me of when I showed skijoring to Denise and she was like, "What?" It never even occurred to me to ever think about it as being dangerous because I'm me. And so I'm like, oh, this is just regular stuff that we do. This is the shenanigans. We like to do the shenanigans. And she was like, Jerry, that looks, are you okay?
So if anybody doesn't
It's
know what
true.
skijoring is, it's a horse running really fast on snow and ice through the middle of a town with people holding onto a line on skis behind the horse.
Yeah.
Yes, the first thing I thought was, well, now let's all take this does not look like a good idea. This looks like something you'd see on Jackass. That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking when I saw it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it feels like that. But to your point, when you're in that community, like people ask me all the time, like, how many horses got hurt? How many horses died? How many horses? I was like, I've never seen a horse get hurt. Multiple races. I've seen a horse buck someone off, and then the person just gets up and they're like, because we're all nuts. I saw a guy lose a tooth. He lost one of his little teeth last time, and it was funny, and we all laughed, and especially him. But I've never um horse treatment and welfare is the number one conversation at skijoring, and it's it's taken incredibly seriously. So like the horses have special shoes, they're trained to run on the snow, but you don't know that when you're just looking at it because you're not in it and it's not you and you're just looking as an outsider. So it's just yet another great example of like perspective and context matters.
And I mean, again, it's like, and what are you getting out of it? If people are doing it, if they're driving hours and hours to get there, if they're buying the equipment, if they're training for it, they're obviously getting something out of it, which may not make sense to me. Like
Yeah,
that might not be my idea of a good time. But I mean, how many hundreds of hours do I spend training my dogs for dog events?
right.
For 10 minutes, right? Obviously I'm getting something out of it. So when people say, I don't understand why you do all that, that's okay. You don't need to understand. I'm not asking you to do it, right? Like it gets me out of bed in the morning
Yeah,
is what I'm like. That's why I'm doing it. It's that important to me. Doesn't
yeah.
actually matter if it's important to you. You can still support me. And I'm
Hmm.
100% on board with you and your daughter doing all this cool stuff because I can live vicariously and I can say to myself, don't die.
That's
Have a
what
good
we're
time.
all saying. We're all going, stay on, stay on, stay on. Yeah, it's really interesting to think about what could drive a person to make a 20-hour round trip for two 15-second runs. But I'll tell you that when you're putting that much effort into something, j- just arriving in the moment, being present and being there for her and celebrating with her, whether she wins or loses or whatever, nothing could compare to that. There's no drug, there's no I've done them all. There's nothing that compares to putting all that effort in so that your kid can have 15 seconds at their dream. It's just Oh, more will be revealed, huh, Matt?
Yeah, I don't, I won't be doing that anytime soon. So that part's not going to be revealed, but dope, dope
Conjuring
is dope, and
will
I
not be
appreciate it.
revealed.
Mine will not be revealed. I want to. I told my family because my wife's they're having dinner now, so I told them I would be in about an hour. So I
Oh, it's
just want to.
perfect. We got to smile and go because we're about to get cut off.
Okay,
Okay,
cool.
everybody smile
Wait.
first before you say this, Matt.
Okay,
Okay, smile.
smile.
Okay, now say it.
Shout out to the speakers. Save Res Dogs, Denise Fenzi, Aaron Michael Lewis, Jerry Scherf, Aaron Michael Lewis. If you don't know
Wait,
Aaron Michael, Sweet Gigi's that.
Gigi.
Yep, is that account. James Evans from Care for Equity, Marissa Martino, Namita Digashetti at Positive Culture, Lori Williams is going to be there.
It's
Um,
Lori.
oh my gosh,
She's great.
Kib Brophy's going to be a virtual speaker. Agnieszka Janarek, Dr. Eddie Fernandez is going to be there. We've got a host and a crew and a house of possibility. And then our virtual speakers are Andy Hale's going to live speakers in Sweden. Andy Hale, Mike Shikashio, Dr. Moira Heckenleitner, Ava Bertelsen. Emily Johnson Vey is going to be there. It's just a dynamite lineup across the board. So thank you for giving me a chance. Thanks in advance to the speakers, yourselves included. And I will see you in the pod, which we're going to record sooner than later.
So
Excellent.
excited for that.
Can't wait. Can't
Thank you
wait. We're
all.
going
All
to have a
right,
great time.
everybody. Thank you so much for being here, Matt. And if
So,
you guys want to catch the Dogs Anonymous meeting, you can go to the link in my stories and grab the Zoom link. It is at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time tonight.
Most excellent. Thank you both.
bye, y'all.
What a great
Thank
talk.
you.